All right, good afternoon. I want to welcome you all to the Career Transitions panel discussion. And before we get started, I have a couple of questions just to kind of get to know the audience. How many of you are in the process of a transition right now? One. How many of you are considering a transition? Okay, great. Well, I am Allison Cox, and I'm the Director of Talent Acquisition, Talent Management, and Internal Communications for Windstream Communications. And I am very excited to be here today to introduce three amazing ladies that have truly had just remarkable careers and then very interesting different transitions within those careers. So how we're going to spend our hour, I'm going to introduce these ladies and then have them tell their stories. Since we're kind of a small group, I want you all to feel very comfortable. Raise your hand if you have any questions while they're talking. I'll bring the microphone to you. And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A as well. And then we're going to play kind of a little quick kind of game at the end. So with that, first I would like to introduce, down at the end, this is Liz Smith. And she's the Executive Director at the Greater Blytheville Area Chamber of Commerce. And then we have Julie Johnson-Holt. She's the founder partner at First Class Communications. And then we have Megan Hamlin, and she's the CFO at Southern Branding. So I will just start at the end. And Liz, if you will just kind of tell your story the way you told it to me. And again, if you have questions, just raise your hand and we'll get those answered as we go.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it, Allison. I basically am in my third career, and I think what characterizes my transitions perhaps is that they are very diverse careers, each of them. I'm educated. My education was in music education, graduated with a degree in vocal music. All of my graduate work is in education, and I spent 10 years as a classroom teacher in Blytheville. Grew up in Jonesboro. I've always been in Northeast Arkansas. I think my transitions, by the way, I should say, are essentially because I made some life changes and never because I didn't like a job. So notably, that's had an impact on me. But I got a little whim. I had an opportunity to move to New York City when I was while I was teaching, and I thought that would be fun. You know, we think things are fun when we're 28 or 29 years old anyway. So I thought it would be fun to go and live in New York for a couple of years. And so I did move to New York City. And I had this fear that teaching school would mean I was going to get stabbed to death in the classroom or something, which of course is not true. But anyway, at the time, I thought, well, let me just see if there's something else I can do. Very long story short, I ended up taking a just above entry-level position in an advertising agency that specialized in the promotion of prescription drugs. I had never studied science beyond basic science courses in college. I was not particularly strong at that, nor did I like it very much. And yet I ended up in an industry that is very science-based. I ended up spending 22 years in that industry and in the Northeast as opposed to those two. And the last 8 of those, I served as the CEO of medical education companies with pharmaceutical companies as my clients. So I had a really incredibly successful and fulfilling career there. It was really due to life changes, some family issues that I made the decision, partly family, but I think I wanted to get back to the South, and I made the decision to come back to Northeast Arkansas, thinking that I would take my career with me, by the way, thinking that I would do some writing, do freelance writing and consultant work and such. And about a year after I was back, the job at the Chamber of Commerce in Blytheville opened up, and friends of mine influenced me to apply for it. By that point, I did apply for it, did get the job, and I think with that job, of course, it kind of brought together a lot of my past. It brought my business experience together with the educational experience, and then also I was an elected official when I was in the Northeast. I lived in a small town in New Jersey for some years and was on their city council. That came to play in this job. So I've gone from music teacher to an executive in a science-based environment. I still wonder how I did that. Anyway, and now am the director at the Chamber. I would just simply say that I should qualify by saying I'm not a person who is afraid of change. Never have been. So I always think it might be fun to change. I'm a little frustrated at this point in my life thinking I'm probably too old to really change again, but then maybe not. You never know, you know. And I would also just say to anybody, and I'm sure we'll all say this, that if you're considering any kind of change, it's wonderful to go to the top of your field and really succeed. That's very fulfilling, very enriching, but it's also wonderful to go to the top of several fields and to really succeed at several different things. I think all of us have so many skills we don't know we have. Teachers, I could preach to teachers about the skills they have, which they don't know I have, and I'll give you a quick example, then I'll be quiet because I know I don't have much time. But when I moved to New York and got into this very competitive, extremely tough marketplace. I had been a classroom teacher, as I said, and this will be humorous perhaps, but it's really true. The things you learn in one career that you can transition with into another. I met more than my share of very intimidating people who used intimidation as a means of gaining power and who love to intimidate, and not in a joking manner, really love to put you ill at ease and intimidate. So I adopted this little habit of looking at those people in a meeting and sitting there and thinking, I wonder how you would do standing up in front of a class full of ninth graders. And that might sound funny, but if you've not stood up in front of a class full of ninth graders for about an hour, don't laugh. And I would always think, oh, you know what? They would just chew you up and spit you out, and I can stand up in front of a class of ninth graders. And those kinds of things have always helped me. I mean, I think changing careers is a tremendous confidence builder, and it's really a question of the confidence you have in yourself. I'll stop.
Julie.
Okay. My name's Julie Johnson Holt, and I'm in the second year of owning my own business, but like Liz, I've gone through a lot of transitions. I started out, wanted to be a teacher, came to Little Rock with a certificate to teach social studies, could not find a job. My husband was in med school here. So I ended up doing actually what I was probably more passionate about, working in newspaper, and have, to get ready for this, I was counting up the number of places I've worked, and I'm almost embarrassed to say that I've worked at 16 places over the last, 25 years. But, and one thing you do learn is some transitions are forced upon you, and some transitions you choose. And hopefully you can look back and see how all of them have helped you grow and gain and build to be where you are. You know, I can go through my whole history, but I was, I think, asked to be on this panel specifically to talk about the transition, which I've made most recently, and that's from being an employee administrator to owning my own business. And so I, you know, do want to get into some of the lessons and things if y'all are interested in that. I know people are here for different reasons, so I'll address a lot of that with questions. But I will say that in that transition, you know, I was told the first year is your hardest, and I can vouch for that, and I can give you some horror stories on how that's true. I've also been told, and I'm sure you've all heard, the 1,000 days to see if you succeed, and I figure I'm about day almost 800 right now, so we're, you know, hoping it's going to work, but it seems to be headed in that direction. But the other thing that, and this was talked about at lunch so much, but relying on other people and finding resources and then doing your homework before you make a change. So all of those things I'll be glad to answer if people have questions.
Megan.
Hi. My name's Megan Hamlin. My husband and I have a business called Southern Branding, and which is a corporate branding firm. We do, you know, anything you can put a logo on, we do. And that was not my background at all. My background has been the food service industry and customer service industry. And prior to my son being born, I was an assistant general manager over a food and beverage department at a hotel, and loved it. You know, that was the industry I wanted to be in. I was really passionate about management, and I was really passionate about customer service. And then my son was born, and my whole world changed, and everything was upside down, and any relationship I had was totally different, and who I knew myself to be was totally different. And, I had this tiny little creature who I had great plans for on how things were going to be in this cute little nursery. And I was going back to work and, this fabulous bed and, all of this stuff that, none of that happened. So all of a sudden he was here and, he never slept in the bed. He never once slept in his crib. The only way I could get him to sleep was nursing. I mean, this child was just, how was it going to possibly work that I could go back to work? And I didn't know. And someone said to me, do you have to go? Like, do you have to go back to work? And it was the first time that I had even ever considered that possibility. And I didn't know how to make it work, but I knew that rang true for me, that I needed to be home, and that's what I really wanted to do, and that's what was going to drive me at that time. So we made the commitment, my husband and I did, for me to stay home, and we would just figure out how it was going to work. And he had just started this business about a year prior, and what that did for us was really create necessity. And out of necessity can come great change because you have a need. And we had a need. I wasn't working anymore. So he had to really work hard to get this business that he had committed to off the ground. And, time went by and Hayden, my son, became at an age where it was natural for us to have a little bit more separation. And, we found a great school for him that I really loved and feel confident in. And that helped me to be able to create some separation with him, and then to be more available for other things, whatever that was going to mean for me. And at the same time, my husband's business was really growing, and he had hired a couple of people, and he needed somebody else, and it just was a fit. It was not what I wanted to do. It wasn't what my plan was. Sometimes we become so stuck in, or I become so stuck in, how I think things are going to be that I can't see what's really needed in front of me. And it just became obvious that, well, I should go to work with him. I should go to work with him and to help him. And so that's what we've done. And it's been about a year now. And the way that it has served us is it's made me available to be with my son in the afternoons and to still have that flexibility. But I'm still working, and we have our family business where we're making it work for our family, which is a great feeling. So what I've taken from all of it in the past few years is being able to, how it served me is being able to be in the moment and really try and learn to see what's needed in any given moment and be present for it. And to try to not pay attention so much to how I think things are supposed to be, but to be in the moment with how things are. And if I can make decisions based in being in that place, then things seem to kind of open up. Things work out. Things work out in the universe. Things are presented to you, and that's what's happened for us. So that's my story.
Well, Julie, we definitely want to get to those horror stories in a minute. One thing that I do want to ask you, although I know we have several in here that are considering a transition, so I think probably one important thing would be, what advice would you give someone that is considering a transition? I know to most people don't like change. So considering a transition into something that's new, even if it seems exciting, can be very scary. So what advice would you give everyone on that?
I would say go for it. I mean, I think you can overanalyze and overthink. Obviously, you have to make a reasonable choice, I think, based on your needs and what motivates you. But when it's fear that's in your way, I think the thing to do is just burst through it and go, because I think in my case, I learned so much about myself. I mean, people thought I was out of my mind when I was leaving Blytheville, Arkansas to go to New York. So what are you going to do? I said, I'll do something. I mean, something good will happen. And I just went for it. And I think that's, if you're starting your own business, if you decide it's a very tough thing to start a business. I mean, a startup business is hard, but the rewards are tremendous. And I'm not speaking just financially. So I would say go for it. I don't know what you all would say, but I think.
I think I probably did that. And I think, looking back, that was opposite of what I was going to say for my advice. So
that's all right.
I think there are three questions that I think I did consider and probably I didn't overanalyze, and I wonder if maybe I should have a little bit more. But I think there are three things to really ask yourself. One is, am I emotionally ready to do this? Yeah. Because it is fearful. There are going to be things, whether it's going to a new job where you're assured of a paycheck, that you got all new coworkers, new bosses, that kind of thing, or if you're stepping out on your own. The other is, especially when it comes to starting your own business, am I financially able to do this? And who am I financially responsible for? And who am I, do I have people I need to take care of? And what's this going to mean to them? And the third one is, do you have a support system for that change? Because I know I was very lucky at the time that I decided to do this, that I have a husband who's incredibly supportive. I have a brother. In fact, I'm wearing this charm that he gave me because he's an entrepreneur, but he had this made up for himself at one time. And one side says, chase your dreams, and the other side says, never give up. And that's been incredible. And he's been a huge support system with very practical advice for me as well. So I think those three things really need to be looked at before you make a big change.
Yeah, I said a reasoned approach, meaning that you've thought those things through. But once you're just afraid, I think you have to, that you are never, the fear, you can answer lots of questions about yourself, but the fear of, and the risk, the fear that comes with any kind of risk is not going to just vanish. You will have to ultimately, I think, catapult that in order to make the change. Certainly, I'm not suggesting you have an idea to change and you're just going to do it with no consideration. So just qualifying myself there.
I think most people don't change without necessity. And, whatever that may be and how it looks like for you, whether it's something in your current career that's not working for you, or in your home life, your family, whatever it may be, I think we have signs all over the place when we're paying attention when change is needed. And so I think that's kind of the key, is paying attention and recognizing when there's opportunity, and not closing doors. So not being stuck in, how we think things are supposed to look, really. And I think that a lot of times when we do that, we don't recognize what opportunities we're passing up or that are being given to us.
Great. All right. Another question. What, each of you, what are you the most proud of throughout your whole career? This can be transitions included. What are you just the most proud of that, kind of another piece of nugget of advice that you could give the audience?
Do I have to start? Yeah. Well, that's a very hard question for me to answer. I don't know. I mean, I don't know if proud is the word I'd use. Grateful that I've been able to have a successful life. And for me, I am probably proud of the fact that I've been able to do things that are very fulfilling to me, and for the right motivations for the most part. Well, we're all motivated by different things. I mean, money is a big motivator for many people. I don't happen to be as driven by money as some people, but it's very difficult to say what I'm really proud of. I mean, I've been very happy in my career. I did not change jobs out of need. I did it because I just wanted to do something different and change my life, as I said earlier. So I'm just sort of have a little adventurous spirit. But I think it's been very fulfilling. So I'm glad I've been able to do that. I don't know what I'm most proud of outside of, I mean, as far as work is concerned, I mean,
Julie,
aside from families and things like that.
You want to go next?
Sure. I don't know that I have something within my career that I'm the most proud of. I've certainly loved all of my experiences. I'm happy with where we are right now and what we've been able to create, but I know that this isn't where I'm going to end up necessarily. There's still, much, much more and opportunity to do different things. But for where we are, my family and I, where we are in our lives right now, this is a pretty ideal scenario for my child to be taken care of during the day and for me to be available in the afternoons and for that part to work. Right now, I feel like I'm kind of getting the best of both, because I'm being able to, work with my husband, which is another whole set of challenges. But in a family business, that is, we're providing for ourselves, and it gives me the opportunity to still be mom in the afternoons, which is really, my dream. So,
Julie, you have anything to add to that?
I guess, and when you've gone through as many different things, I think part of what I'm proud of is perseverance, because sometimes there are changes that you wish hadn't happened, and learning to get through those, and drawing on resources deep down as well as people around you to come out of that on the other side in a better place. And so I think I'm proud of that. But I'm also proud, and I like the way you say being open to opportunities and seeing things. And I don't know if that's something that I'm proud of. That's probably something I'm grateful of, because there have been some really great things that have come along and happened that I never, ever would have dreamed of.
Right. Do you all have anything you want to ask before I ask some more questions? Anybody? Y'all want to hear about their challenges? Do you want to hear some? You have something?
I got that sort of thing. So I'm in the midst of a transition. I guess going from being an employee, which I have been my whole life, to running my own business, which is unrelated to what I've done my whole career. And for about 2 years now, I've been doing it on the side, trying to build my business. And I know there's going to be challenges when I branch out on my own. So I guess that is kind of my question a lot, is what did you run into when you started your own business? And kind of when did you decide? Was there a moment where you were like, okay, I'm ready, it's time to go out on my own? Were you kind of how I am, like I'm building up and I'm kind of waiting for that moment, and I'm to say, okay, now it's time, I know it will work. Like, what was that moment for you?
Yeah, I wish I could say there was a moment where I knew it was going to work, but I am.
Day 1,000.
Yeah, day 1,000 is coming. Now, I had been in a job where I probably would have stayed and been there. Now, I was director of communications at the Department of Education, which combined the two things I love. I love writing and communicating, and I'm passionate about education. But we had a new commissioner who came in and wanted to put his own administrative team together. And so, the ones of us who had been there were gone. And so then I thought about it at that time. I thought, well, I know that school districts, there are a lot of them out there who could use some communication help. Emotionally, it was such a blow to me to be let go. That had never happened to me before. So really, I don't think I was ready emotionally at that point to do it. Financially, I was a single parent at that point, so that wasn't a good idea either. Then I think I kind of panicked and took the first job, which was a good job, but wasn't a great fit for me. But during that year, it kind of gave me time, and I realized I had an opportunity to write for the Arkansas Community Foundation. I thought, well, maybe I can go out and make this work. So it was really more of a gradual, but then I just got to the point where it's like, okay, I need to go on and make the change and quit thinking about it. But I had those other support pieces in place. And, so I think there's some checks, and then it's, like you said, you just kind of, that's what I put in all my bios. That's you take a deep breath and leap, and that's kind of what it is.
Yeah, I would like to add to that also. I think, they say timing is everything, and, you're the only one that can know whether the timing is really right for you.
That's true.
But you have to commit. You can't, go, well, I'm going to work on it a little, and I'm going to do this a little, and, you have to make the decision to commit, and then commit. And, once you commit to something, then it like that necessity creates change. When you really have a need for it, like your, financial world, your family depends on it, you're going to make it happen. It's kind of like, dieting, when they say you can't sort of diet, you have to commit to it. So.
All right, so I have another question. What surprised you as you were going through your transition? Anything that you just, we kind of have a path. We know we're going down this way, and we do commit, and we start going, but then something just, inevitably something pops up, doesn't go the way that we want it to be. Anything that surprised you along the way?
You don't have long enough to list all of the things that. I think we would all agree that you can't anticipate all all the obstacles or the surprises is a nice way to say, the things that you can't predict. I mean, you simply, it'd be wonderful to be able to sit down and predict that everything's going a certain way, but it doesn't. I think I could never answer that question because I've had so many of those types of challenges over the years. The key is to recognize, I think, on the front end that is going to be a part of any kind of career change and really of developing any kind of career, I think. And that you have to know on the front end that you're going to be able to, that you are going to be dedicated to getting through it all, that you're going to persevere. And I think changing careers, for me at least, it did mean a huge commitment to taking what comes and making it work for me. It might not have been that way for either of these ladies, but for me, and certainly I would say with running a new business, because I've run startup businesses, and that's an extremely difficult thing to do. But I think you have to, part of the whole thing, and I think with you trying to decide whether to go off in your own business or not, one of the things you really do have to do that Megan is sort of alluding to, you make the commitment, and you need to know that a lot of things are going to crop up that you never imagined. And you can get all the education you want, talk to all the people you want, but your circumstances, and you have to be willing to know you're going to work through those and have the confidence to know you can. That's not a good answer, but I think there's so many surprises. I don't know. Is that not true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many of you in here are considering starting your own business or kind of in the starting stages of it? Very many. Cameraman. All right. Well, so I do want to hear. Let's hear a couple of those horror stories. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say my surprise was in laying the groundwork for going out on and doing my own thing. I was talking to various people who I knew I would need their skills to complement mine. And so my big surprise was I went to lunch with a former colleague who does a lot of social media and web design and everything. And by the end of lunch, we decided to partner together and be in business together.
That's great.
So, yeah, that was a surprise that's really worked out.
And there are a lot of good surprises. We think of surprises as challenge. There are really a lot of great things that come your way.
What were the great surprises?
Well, I mean, things like that. I think you find people who are supporting you and who suddenly get on board with you. And, I mean, all kinds of really good things happen to keep you motivated, I think. So you have surprises on both sides.
Right, for sure. Well, and I do want to keep this positive, but I'd like to hear a horror story or two.
God. That's good.
Well, it's mine. I met with people, and I thought I was prepared. And, people said the first year is really, really hard. And I just didn't believe it was going to happen to me, I guess, And so it's those long days when you're hoping for, checking the email endlessly to see if somebody's contacted you, and sending out flyers and making calls and meeting people, but just waiting so long for things to really get rolling. That was the hardest. And I tend to be a real up and down emotional person, and luckily my partner is very stable. And but there are many days where, even though I thought I was committed, I was I can't do this anymore. I've got to make some money. But it's just the waiting game that is the biggest horror story
when you're trying to get business. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Any more audience questions right now? And I'm going to bring this microphone if you don't mind. Well, if it'll come out. Okay, forget that. Go ahead.
Or kind of just your comments about something. I've been with county government for 26 years, and it's okay. I like what I do. But when you've been somewhere, you've gotten to the point where you're not actually going to make any more money. You don't have a ladder to climb anymore. You're kind of there. And you begin to look and see, okay, what do I need to do? Well, I went back to school, got a master's. And now I'm at a point now where I know I want to do something else, but I don't know what that something else is. And then there's a part of me that says you have it good where you are. Kind of just don't, I think my fulfillment or what I've been doing is things on the side to make up for what I do between 8 to 5. But if I want to do something different, would you have kind of like maybe a process of how, I guess, when you decided to go to New York, you just decided I want to go to New York, that's what I want to do?
I was 28, so I just something like that.
When you get older and your kids, my kids are grown, well, my daughter's finishing college, and my son is grown, so I don't have babies, I don't have, anything that I have to take care of on a daily basis other than me. But, financially speaking, though, my daughter still needs me to have something. I can't really just say, okay, I'm going to go off on my own. But I don't really know,
Well, I think you first have to sort of decide if career is really that important to you, or because you're saying that you have these other little ancillary things that sort of fulfill you so that you can endure the job. So, I mean, if you make a decision that, well, I don't mean endure it, but so that you can make the job a little bit more. You work in county government, you have my admiration already. So, but I think, you have to really evaluate what matters to you. That, to me, is essential. And then, in terms of finding out what you can do, that's really it depends on where you are, I think, and what you're doing. I mean, in some cases you start interviewing for jobs, especially if you're in a metropolitan area. I think just going out and seeing what's available and seeing what you obviously have some areas of interest with regard to your education. So, I mean, I think, and talking to people, but I think you really have to move yourself probably farther along in that decision-making process about whether you want to leave that job. I think that's very hard. I think leaving comfort, and we're talking about career transitions. Julie mentioned that she's had 16 jobs, and I didn't mention that about myself, but those 22 years I spent in the Northeast I was in the same industry all the time, but I changed jobs quite a number of times, which in that business is kind of what you do. But that's also I think that's a big issue. Maybe not for you all, but to me, whether to change jobs or not, even if it's in the same realm, I mean, it's can be very risky. And so I equate all of those things. I don't know what is the best advice for you. They're both smarter than I am, so they should tell you that. But you need to go out and assess what's available to you.
Yeah, I would really agree with what you're saying about deciding first. I think you have to decide whether or not, making a change is right for you. And I think once you just even verbalizing it, like, I'm going to go and look for another job, or I'm going to put my resume together and I'm going to start seeing what's out there. Things start opening up. And I don't know if it's because, things start opening up, or if it's more like we're paying attention. Now you've stated something, you've set a goal, and you've said, this is what I want to see happen. And so you start paying attention more, and you start paying attention to things that come up for you and opportunities that you may just kind of have, not paid attention to before. So I think deciding.
And there's nothing wrong with having a job you like and doing lots of other things that make you even more productive. And I mean, I think that's a wonderful way for people to live myself. I think that's, what they call balance sometimes. So.
Well, and I think it's a little ironic that I'm facilitating the career transitions because I've been in the same job, not the same job, but the same industry and basically the same company for 16 years. So from the time I graduated college,
so she knows nothing.
I know nothing about transitions. I have had multiple, different jobs that have led me to different things. And then, but, working in talent acquisition now, I mean, I talk to people that are in your position every day, and I do say, just see what's out there. Talk to people. Find a mentor. Find someone that has done something that you think you're interested in. And, ask them the good, the bad, the ugly, and, have some of those conversations.
Yeah, and the exploration part, I think, is really, because there's so many jobs and ways to do things that you're passionate about that I still, it's like, oh, really, that's a job? So the talking to people and being, and, and the chamber does neat things, and there's, I did want to put in a plug because this group has been very helpful for me. But in El Dorado is the Arkansas Women's Business Center, and they do free services. You might, if you haven't talked to them, they're great, and lots of support, and it's totally free. And just for ideas and things like that, that's another place. But
that was my question, Julie. Did you have a business feasibility plan?
Part of what I had done is I'd done a lot of research just on my own and gotten books, but the Small Business Administration has a business plan, and guides you step by step. And so my partner and I spent Veterans Day before we actually started our business really going through, and it has you analyzing your competition and who that will be and setting your goals and what your marketing is going to be. And that was extremely, extremely helpful. I wish I'd found the Arkansas Women's Business Center before I started my job. I did not find them until afterwards. But we did show them our business plan, and they gave it a stamp of approval, which was nice. But yeah, you really need to think through all of those steps beforehand. And then it'll change. It revises.
What about your capital stream? Did you have that put together, or did you find a lender?
Well, my business is very low upfront money required, so we both put in some money. Then this last fall, I decided that because we were working virtually, we would Skype meet every morning, but work virtually out of our homes. And I decided we'd gotten to the point where we really needed our own place. And so my partner still likes to work out of the home, but I work in an office downtown, and I had to get an investor, my mother, to help with that. So.
Yeah, that family support's very important.
Family support
Yes.
was very helpful.
I had a question about the course. By all of you women being in business, did you not encounter anyone trying to take advantage of you, or not really following through on deals as they should have, being that you were female?
I really can't. There have been times, some of that, but I've never really run into. I won't say never, but I don't have women horror stories too much.
Well, I was working in the New York City area, so it was very competitive and extremely tough environment in many ways. So I would say yes, I've run into that, and I've run into, I certainly just repeatedly ran into the issue of walking into a pharmaceutical company meeting with a male colleague who, by his own admission, would know about half what I knew when I was really the expert walking in. And I'm just saying by construct of our management, and they'd immediately look to him. He was always the person that got the attention until, of course, we really started getting into things. You kind of have to prove yourself. So I've run into a lot of those things, and I've trained a lot of young women in the advertising field and such. And my adage always was, and I run into those things today. There's still very much a good old boy network at work, at least in the Arkansas Delta. So my adage always has been that you can think about that a whole lot and get really upset about it, but at the end of the day, you've got to be the very best you can be at what you do. And I think that's what usually I try to pursue it that way. I've never been victimized by something that would require legal action or anything of that nature. But I've dealt with some pretty amazing stories of, I've been in some really highly uncomfortable positions probably.
You just visualize them in front of a bunch of ninth graders.
I do. I just say, how would you do in front of it? I used to be young and all that, and I had a superior who used to, was really sexually harassed me in a lot of ways and, looking at my chest all the time and all this kind of stuff. And, I finally told him one day, I have really nice blue eyes and you need to start looking at them. And and I was not laughing. And I knew him 20 years later, and every time I would ever see him, he'd always say, Liz, your eyes are so pretty. I love your eyes, but he learned a lesson. He really, and I said it in a very warning fashion. That's probably the most sexually sort of oriented thing. But I think women everywhere, maybe education is a little softer in that respect, but I think women always run into some issues, but you can overly dwell on them and lose focus on what you need to do yourself sometimes, I think. Not spoken like the feminist I am, but anyway. Did we make a change with your grade?
It's a great change. Yeah, she said, did you ever make a change and you started going on that path and maybe you realized it wasn't the right path?
Well, for me, after we made the decision where I was going to stay home, and that's what we had committed to, and my husband, was committed to this business that he had started. Which funny story with this business that he had started, he started it right before we got married. So we were going through marriage counseling sessions with our church, and he comes into the room one day, and I guess he thought it was a safe place because he just, by the way, I quit my job today and I'm starting my own company. and I was, so that's how he announced it. And, in the church. And so it was really hard. It was really hard for a long time, and especially after Hayden came along, because, I was really passionate about it. I wanted to be home. I felt very strongly about that. And it really forced us both to make his business work. And there were a lot of times where I think, we both went like, how the hell are we going to make this happen? What are we going to do? And just stuck with it, really. So that's key. Yeah, that was hard. He started it, and it was out of our home in the room the size of a closet, and with a newborn baby there. So there were lots and lots of challenges around it. So
I have taken jobs that I think were, that I regretted, that I knew were wrong. I think the rule of thumb there is having the courage to say to yourself that you've made a bad decision. And, when you've made a bad decision, you have two ways to go. You either change it and do something different, or you stick it out if that's what and sometimes I think that's the appropriate thing to do. But I do think it takes some emotional maturity to say to yourself, you know what, this isn't working. Even if it's something, I took a job one time that I was so proud of myself for getting, and I just, boasted everyone, oh, guess what, I'm blah, blah, blah. It turned out to be a horrible job. And it took me a while to finally come, and it paid a whole lot of money, and it took me a while to come to the point where I had to acknowledge this was not a good decision. There's nothing wrong. The company has not done anything to you. It's nothing on this little journey since you've been here. It's the fact that you made a bad decision. And once I could get to that, I came to that conclusion, then I changed my path. Not that moment, but I started putting the pieces in place to move on. So, yes, I think that's career development. I think bad decisions, we can't all be perfect all the time, but.
Yeah, and I would agree with that. I'd mentioned that job that I took after the Department of Education, and I think the offer came along quickly, and I didn't give myself time to rebound from my shock, and I think I reacted in that situation where I start questioning, well, am I really good enough, or am I doing my job well, and questioning my own value. So I should never have made a move. And then when I did, I was so grateful to be working, but it just wasn't a good fit for me. The responsibilities were not what I had thought they were going to be, and so forth. So I think then it's figuring out, how do I gracefully remove myself, but you're not doing yourself or the person you're working for any favors by staying in a job that's just not, and a lot of times it's not the bad company and it's not the bad you, it's just a bad fit.
And the precursor to all that is really understanding yourself well enough to know why you want that, why you're making that decision. I think money is a powerful seductress. And I've known so many people in my career who make moves solely because of money, which is not always the best reason. And, they might get into something they think is a terrible position, but they're getting paid a lot of money. That doesn't work for everyone. Maybe it does for some people, but it's really important to think those decisions through and know what matters to you, and not what the norm says is important about you and your position and your job. But you can still make bad decisions. We can't always avoid those.
Yeah.
Yes.
How many of you are on LinkedIn? Yeah, a good number of you. I would definitely say that's a good place to network. It's definitely for people that you do know, but even if there's someone that is in a field that you're interested in, reach out to them. Sometimes they'll talk to you, sometimes they won't, but I definitely would recommend that. And then kind of just think of that as your running resume. I mean, it is who you are to the people that don't know you. So I think that's as you're considering a transition, just make sure that's real tight. And go ahead.
For the LinkedIn profile, if you want to use it for your new business that you're transitioning into, how would you suggest rolling your resume? So if it doesn't really have your past resume, I know you should still have this position on there. But Liz, right? So do you think you should just pull out? Like, I've worked in education. My whole career has been in education. I'm transitioning to wellness and nutrition. So there's a tie. So should I just pull out some key principles to highlight in each of my jobs, or should I just list them and not have the description of what I did there? Do you have an opinion on that?
I think I think on LinkedIn and on any kind of resume, I think that you need to highlight what your value is. I mean, obviously you have to list your experience, but in every experience you have, there is a value that you're going to apply to whatever you're seeking. And I think that's a very important way to go about, certainly on LinkedIn because of the format. And I think resume writing too, which I do little courses in resume writing, and it's amazing. People just want to list everything. And yet you say, well, how about telling what you did there that was so important? So I'm sort of the principal type on that. Although they, again, probably know a lot more than I do about this.
No, that's true. I changed my resume format a lot. Well, I don't know how many jobs ago, but several jobs ago. And I list where I work, and then I have what I learned, or what I did and what I learned, or the best thing I did and what I learned. It's been a while since I've looked at it. And then that way, and then depending on, what I might be applying for, to tailor. And that's what I would do on LinkedIn is if you're changing direction, then take what you've done, but tailor it to
toward your target
where you're going.
It's easy to go job by job, but with LinkedIn,
No, anytime you're putting a resume together, you need to be thinking about what you want it to accomplish for you. So and it's not just to give a laundry list of everything. It should be a communication document, really, I think.
Yeah.
Humble little opinion.
No, you.
I have a kind of odd situation. I've done a lot of, obviously, job jumping. My educational background is in film and television. I did a gig in Nashville, and all the way to New York. Went to Nashville for a few years. Decided I liked the idea of steady work and worked in the insurance industry for the past 15 years. So I went kind of from one extreme to the other. What's happened though in my insurance career is that I've steadily moved up, but I'm kind of in a position now that has been tailored to my strengths, and it's not an industry-wide position. It's not really transferable. I have a lot of good skills, but it's not a job title in another place. And I'm kind of hitting that ceiling. I'm running a field voice club network, the whole thing. And so I'm trying to figure out what can I do to kind of understand how all my experience, how I can look at it as a whole and kind of see where else I can be valuable. Do you have any tips for doing that kind of thing?
Do you know where you're wanting to go from here?
No, no. I know that I probably am not wanting to stay where I am if I'm not going to get the movement that I think I need to get. So I know that I need to go somewhere. I want to be able to see kind of what I can parlay my skills into.
Do you have the freedom to make the move? I think Julie's original questions that you have to ask yourself is like, financially, do you have the freedom and obligations to family, et cetera? And also where you're located. And how, I think you have to consider all those things.
Right. And I think, for me now, it's not I have to do this now or not do this right now. It's let me think long term, what are the kind of careers that I think about? Does that sort of thing interest me? And, from my background in film healthcare, from my background in insurance healthcare, that sort of thing. I think you just list out all your skills, take a look at them, and kind of see what's out there, or...
I would say you start with, exactly what you just said was you start making lists. You start making lists of all of your experience, what your strengths are, and then what your ideal scenario would be. And then you start seeing how those can work together. And for me, I'm a very visual person. I like to see things on paper, and I like to see things in black and white. And so when I can actually look at something and I start going through the process of writing down and just putting down on paper what my ideal would actually be, what's the best case here for me. Sometimes I surprise myself. I create different ideas that I didn't even know, wow, that's what I wanted. I had no idea. But you have to get it out. So that's the first starting point, is to get it out on paper.
I think that sort of key about resume writing goes to all of us. I think that sometimes doing it for yourself, sitting down and looking, you know that you've got skills and obviously you know yourself well, but to sit down and say, this is the job I have and these are the jobs I've had, and what have I accomplished in those jobs? What differences have I made? Really thinking of all the unique things you've brought in each time and getting that on paper. I'm like Megan, I have to get the yellow pad out and I can't even do it on the computer when I'm getting down to these things. I have to actually sit down and just write out things and really evaluate. And then I think starting to talk to people. Just get out and talk to people, find people who are in interesting careers and talk to them about what they've done. There are so many jobs, as you said, things that you would never know are jobs, but I think you have to really assess yourself very carefully and know what interests you. What you really like to do is real important, that's the key I think that's the big key of the whole thing. In my life, I have had the good fortune to do things I've liked doing. I've really enjoyed them. And I think that's, if you're going to make a big transition, you need to like what you go to.
And one of the things that we were taught to do, or the Women's Business Center kind of helped us with, is envisioning who our perfect client would be and writing out what those characteristics and what they look like. But you could do that, my next job, what I want it to look like, and then start finding matches for that. But then that helps you shape your skills and what you got, how they would fit into that picture.
Did you hear Millie Ward this morning? You did? Okay. So what you're saying, some of that that was reminding me of that, in the exercise of creating your own personal brand. Yeah. So.
When I think the three of you too are proof that, you started in one area, and Liz, especially you probably were, I've got these skills and then I add on these skills and then you got into something completely different. So I do think talking to people and just kind of figuring out where that leads you.
I think you discover skills you don't know you have. I think there are lots of ways to do that, but that's a very important factor, I think. You can do a lot of things you might not currently think you could do.
Mm-hmm. We had a question over here. Similar question. All right. Yeah, I think you just have to find what sparks you, kind of what, gets your blood pumping and gets you taken off. Any other questions?
Did you get any flack from your other young professional friends about wanting to stay home with your little boy?
I did. Where it was painful for me was, in becoming a mom, my world changed in ways that I just didn't know it was going to change. I thought I was going to be going back to work and all of those things, and that just didn't work for me. So I did things a lot differently than what a lot of people do. We co-slept, we extended nursed. We did a lot of things that a lot of people have a lot of opinions about. And so really one of the things that I learned with that experience is being able to stand in your choices and have the confidence in your choices. But it was. And being a new mom can be kind of isolating, and it can be a lonely world, especially when you do decide to stay home. So, yeah.
Any more questions about resumes, social media kind of career type things? Anything like that?
Yes.
It was really helpful for me. I knew myself so well that I skipped over. It's like when you're reading something you wrote, you miss things.
Mm-hmm.
And I had people that I trusted that knew, from my work, look at it. Well, did we do that? Yeah, but that's just part. Well, no,
that, you know.
Right, great
something
point.
we need to add, so that really filled in gaps for me to have other people.
That's a very important thing. Plus, sometimes you think you're making something perfectly clear, and other people read it, and it's like, So that's a great point.
Yes.
Hello, I'm having an issue with not having experience. I've been working in higher education for the past 10 years, but I'm going from being an accountant, being behind a desk, to want to be an online teacher. I got my master's in education technology, I have a grad certificate in online teaching, but I'm in the field where I'm going against a lot of people who have experience already with teaching. So I guess what advice would you give me to not be so discouraged at this point? You know, keep applying for jobs, but not.
She's saying she doesn't have the experience to get at a job. I couldn't quite understand.
Yeah, she said she's running up against people that have experience and
therefore
going
she
in
can't
it
get-
right. And what advice do you have her to not get discouraged? She's applying for things, but she's getting discouraged because she's getting beaten out by people that have the education that she has, but they also have some of the experience.
And it's for online teaching? Yeah,
I mean, I think you can't stop. You've got to, if that's what you know you want to do, you have to continue. I don't know how it's working for you. Are you getting into an interviewing process and then, or you don't? I mean, I don't know how you get online teaching jobs. So
Just
I work in higher ed. Are you open to teaching? Are you open to teaching?
Yes,
Yes,
she needs
because
to.
I work at URN. I'm about to apply for a position now that you'll be teaching. It could be online, it could be face to face. I'm open for just teaching.
My education, where a lot of inexperienced faculty get their hours are teaching adjuncts but during the day. At like
Yeah.
because they need someone who has a degree in accounting, and who is an accountant, they need to be teaching if they don't have, but adjuncts are usually only available very early in the morning or very late at night. If you're open to teaching in the middle of the day, that can be a foot in the door.
That's good. That's good.
And then you need experience transition to online later, or online within the university. But if you're in a position where you can teach in the day, that can help you.
If it's full time, it's all day.
Well, so adjunct, you know, I mean, it's limited also, but just, I mean, that's the way, it's the way it is, the way.
So it's in a sponsorship session, maybe that's where you get to the next level is to have somebody sort of vouch for teaching and believe in you, even though you don't have the experience and have the potential to do it.
That's why I wondered if she gets in an interviewing situation.
Yeah, and that goes a long way. I mean, I'll tell you from where I sit, the people that are persistent and that just like reach out to me directly
Right.
versus, you know, it's, and we call now when you apply for a job, we call it post and pray. Because you have a lot of, I mean, you have hundreds of people that are applying for jobs. And then, you know, please, somebody.
have to
So if you
pursue.
can make those connections with people within that organization, just whether it's in your field, within the HR department, you know, hook up with them on LinkedIn, just reach out however you can. Ask someone that knows them. That'll, you know, it'll kind of lead you there. Any other questions? All right, well, our time is almost up. I had a couple of just kind of quick things for you ladies, and just to answer really quick. I call this or that. So, suit or business casual?
Business casual.
Business casual.
Business casual.
Heels or flats?
Flats.
Ooh, depends
Lunch?
on the day.
It depends on the day.
She's young.
Lunch out or at your desk?
At my desk.
Out for just networking.
At my desk.
Car or SUV?
Car.
SUV.
Oh, Prius.
Prius. iPhone, Android, other.
iPhone.
Droid for me.
All right, laptop or desktop?
Both.
Both.
Yeah, both actually.
Fly or drive?
Fly.
Yeah, fly for the most part.
Yeah, they'd let me keep my shoes on. Both. I mean both.
Night owl or morning person?
Morning.
I took one of those quizzes. I'm actually like an 8 to 9 o'clock a.m. person.
I guess I'm a morning person by necessity, but by nature, I would be a night owl probably.
All right.
I think.
Amy Poehler or Tina Fey?
Tina Fey.
Tina Fey.
All
like
right.
Tina
Superpower of choice.
Oh me, I don't know.
Being able to get my child to sleep. That would be a great one.
being able to exist on 2 hours sleep a night
Yeah.
would be nice.
Now, that'd be nice.
There are those people, who sleep 3 or 4 hours a night. They get so much done. It's incredible. I'd like to be able
I
to do
don't know
that.
how. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
No, I wouldn't want to do that to the world. It would be, be an unsightly thing to do.
Yeah, I like speed reading.
That'd be good too.
Or what's that called where you automatically memorize it?
Oh,
Photographic,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah, that would be
That would be
great.
nice.
Yes, photographic. All right, and then first email, Gmail, Hotmail, AOL, Yahoo,
First one ever, AOL for me.
AOL. Anybody ever have one that was like combined with someone else's? Like you do no? All right. Well, I want to, first I just want to thank you three. I was going to say ladies, but I guess I should say women.
Thank you. Thank y'all. Y'all were great.
Yes, y'all were great.
We're glad you came. We thought maybe nobody would be here, so
Yeah.
we're glad to see you.
Thanks for your questions. And if, again, hook up with people on LinkedIn. If y'all want any resume advice, anything like that, ask me, ask them. Feel free to stay for a few minutes if you have any other questions that you just didn't want to ask. But thank you all for coming.
Thank you.